Caps Canes. We know what the setup is. We just don't know when it's going to happen. You heard what happened last couple times they played. You just heard some of those highlights. I'm sure there will be highlights. We are still waiting on a schedule. If we hear anything, we'll pass it along to you. I'm Tim Donnelly, Dennis Cox producing the show. What are we potentially like 5 game 7s across the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs? Makes it a little difficult to schedule it around, I guess.
Yeah, there's still one potential game 7 for Sunday. That's it. That's if the Winnipeg Jets don't put away the St. Louis Blues tonight. But otherwise, we got one game 7 tomorrow. That's it.
Still waiting.
Still waiting.
It's okay, though, because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to get ready for when it comes to Canes Caps, because there's layers to this thing, right? Part of it is just focused on the Canes, right? Part of it is nameless, faceless opponent, whoever's over there. There are certain things the Canes have to take care of. It appears as if they're getting a bit healthier, which the break is nice. There's improvements on things that they have to make from the Devils series. That's one side. And then, as you'll hear right here from Rod Brind'amour, he believes their core group is ready for the next round and ready for pushing further into the playoffs.
Well, I think all the guys that have been here now for a while and have experienced this, you can just tell they're excited and all that, but it's like we got to keep going, right? We got to keep going, and so and they're saying the same things. I mean, it's you get down to this final 8. I mean, it's going to be tight. We know it, and it's going to come down to play here or there probably, and we just got to try to find ways to make more of them.
The core group, the ones that have been here a lot, because they do it every darn year, they should be very comfortable winning a playoff series and going into the next round. And it is about doing the things that they haven't done every year, which would be winning more series from this point forward. They've done it a few times. They want to do it again. Now they're resting up, which is nice, and I, the longer you go without knowing when, they're not going to schedule the start of a series, 12 hours from when they announce it. It's not going to be tonight, like, hey, by the way, tomorrow afternoon at 3. Like, it's not going to happen in that way. So they will have a little bit of time. They will have a little bit of rest, and for it, really every team, that's going to be valuable at this point in the season. We'll hear from one of the players, Shane Gostisbehere, one of the Blue Liners, on the benefits of the added rest this week.
This part of the year, I think rest is a weapon. When you play a hard playoff series like we just did, physically you're definitely drained, but mentally too. It takes a lot to get up for these games and to play in these games, especially when some of these games are going to go to overtime. You're playing maybe, I know it said 5 games, but it's almost like 6. So for us, rest is a weapon, and whenever we play, we'll be ready.
So that's one side of it. That's another layer of it is the rest. Another layer, you can just look at this matchup. It's an intriguing one, right? You remove the history, remove the 2019 series, remove the fights a month ago, remove all of that. And it's a fascinating tactical matchup, right? If we boil it down to the most simplest of terms, it feels kind of like speed versus size or skill versus size, where the Capitals are brute strength and they're the more physically like mass. They have more mass on their lines. They're going to be a little bit bigger. Meanwhile, the Canes, kind of as a franchise staple, has not been afraid to draft, develop, and roster and play some smaller dudes if they have the appropriate skill and talent to make up for it. Right, and that right there is always interesting, right? When you have clashing styles matching up in a series of this magnitude, it's gonna be something you want to watch, right? I don't know if it's fair to boil it straight down to this, but the image of Stankoven shoving Tom Wilson, right? It showed Stankoven, not the biggest dude, Tom Wilson, whatever, 6'4", 200 whatever pounds. It was stark. Like, that is kind of how some people view this series. And it becomes, how do you make up for the opposite, right? Washington wants to try to match the skill, and the Canes, despite maybe a lack of size, want to match the physicality or exceed the physicality. Who do you lean on there? Who steps up? Who goes, guys, I got the punch today? And I'm not talking about actually dropping the gloves. I'm talking about the metaphorical punch. I'm going to meet him in the middle of the ring. Caps have the first 2 games at home, which means the Canes are going to be tone setting on the road. I think that's significant, especially when you look at the home and road splits that the Canes had this regular season. They are a much better team just by numbers at home than they are on the road. They're going to have to change that. But there's also weird things happening with the Caps. Dennis pointed it out yesterday, and I said we'd bring it up again today. Their penalty kill was
bad.
What are we going to say? Like 3 levels below what they were in the regular season in the first round of the playoffs against Montreal. There's something like 80% kill during the regular season, all the way down to 66% during the first round. That's something they have to solve independent of who they're playing against. And then I would say the final layer to this, or I mean, if you wanted to nitpick, we go into 75 different layers. But another one is the history. The 2019 Canes Cap series, which went to Game 7, and ironically, the Game 5 against the Devils had a lot of first time since Game 7 against the Caps in 2019. Right? It was the first double overtime game that the Canes had won since then. Maybe the only other double overtime game that they've won in the postseason. There was a lot of those kind of bringing it up statistics. But that 2019 series, right? That win, McGinn, shout out, that win, in a lot of ways announced the arrival of the Rod Brind'amour head coaching Carolina Hurricanes era, right? They made the playoffs for the first time in a while. Then they won that series, and it was the immediate, okay, not the Canes we've seen for the last however many years it had been, decade of some really tough hockey. So how ironic would it be, or how fitting would it be, if they leveled up there and then they took another level up a bunch of years later against the same team? In that 2019 series, Caps go up 2-0. What happens in Game 3? A 19-year-old rookie, Andrei Svechnikov, dropped the gloves with Alexander Ovechkin and kind of got pummeled.
No kind of there.
I was being nice to our guy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you give him a little trap, he kind of took the worst of it. But, right, you look big picture, what happened after that? Right, that game ended up being one of the sparks that turned the series, and you never know what was maybe it's all right. We got to go get him back for Svech because that didn't look good. Whatever it was, it worked and it flipped, and that history is now coming back. Ovechkin obviously on the back nine, now the all-time leading scorer. Svechnikov having lived a life since then, the ups and downs, and become a main contributor and everything else. That's now they're getting a chance to match up in the postseason again. There's history here.
By the way, that Game 3 where Svech got knocked out in that fight, Jordan Martinook also left that game with an injury as well. They were down to 10 forwards less than 10 minutes into the game. I remember asking Rod Brind'amour after the game, how difficult was it? And he says, actually, it made it easier because I had no choice. I just had to go with the next 3 guys. Yeah. Like, there was nothing to think about. You just had to go with the next 3.
Who is not actively panting? Get in there.
That's basically what it was.
The hard part for Rod was probably, this was a decent amount of years ago. The hard part for Rod was probably not going, give me a pads, wear the helmet, give me a stick.
Yeah, for real.
If we need me, I'm here.
I'll take this face off.
I mean, Justin Williams was still out there.
Yeah.
And he's going I know how to play with that guy. Come on, let's go. There's again, it's cool to see the Brind'amour era, right? You could call it whatever era you want. The Aho area. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways, but the Brind'amour era, I think it's cool to have kind of that spot check of this is where we were against that team this many years ago. In the meantime, they've won a cup. We've had 7 straight years of winning a postseason series, and now we're matching up, and we're going to have to go battle it out again.
Yeah, that couple things from that 2019 first round series was the year Washington, or it was the year after Washington had won a cup. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to build off of that. But also my favorite stat from that series, 4 games in Washington, the Hurricanes led for 0 seconds. and still won that series. Led for 0 seconds on the road and still won the series.
Well, I mean, based on this year, they might have to find a way to do that again.
Hey, fine, whatever you got to do.
Because the home and road splits are pretty dramatic.